In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to divide hostas. This one is just a little bit past where I like to do it. I prefer them to look a little bit more like those ones that are very tight, or even a little bit smaller than these. The first thing I do is take a shovel and loosen the soil just a little bit by putting the shovel into the soil and then prying up. That will loosen the roots without damaging them very much. I do that in 3 or 4 places all the way around the plant. It's best to stay 6 or 8 inches away from all of the little sprouts so you won't damage the roots very much. Now that it's loose, I like to remove as much soil from the roots right where I dug it up. How easy it is to remove the soil depends on what type of soil you have. We have sandy loam soil, so the soil comes off fairly easily. As you can see, I just pull it apart with my hands, or I shake it, or I also sometimes pound it against the ground like I'm doing here. After a few minutes, I have most of the soil off, but not all of it. Now I'll show you what I do next. I like to put them in my potting tray and then blast them with a garden hose. If you don't have a potting tray, a grassy area in your yard should work just fine. Most of the remaining soil should come off pretty easily after just a few minutes. Then it should look something like this. While I was blasting it with the hose, one piece separated all by itself. If you look at this big ball of roots, there are small round areas with roots radiating out from those centers. That's where I like to begin. I'll keep my pruners handy because I'm going to be needing those, as you will soon see. I usually start by prying them apart with my hands if I can. If it's too tight, then I trim a few roots with the pruners. After cutting a few roots, then I try prying again. Sometimes that will work, and sometimes you'll have to cut a few more roots. I usually try to get by with as little cutting as I can, but trimming a few roots really doesn't harm them much. After a little bit of effort, I'm able to pull this one apart, and we end up with a nice, healthy division with plenty of roots. You could leave this one just the way it is, or sometimes you can divide it one more time, like I'm going to try here. I just pry apart with my thumb, and now I have 2 divisions, just that easily. After looking it over a little bit, it looks like the largest division might be able to be split one more time, so I'm going to give it a try. By gripping with my thumb and fingers, I pry apart, and as you can see, you end up with another division. Instead of 2, now we have 3. The reason I like to divide my hostas in the spring is because the plants are actively growing, the weather is usually mild, and there is usually more rain, which makes it easier for the plants to recover. As you can see by testing and tugging on the root balls, sometimes they will separate very easily and sometimes not. After a little work, as you can see, I ended up with quite a few divisions, some of them being pretty small. I like to leave a couple of larger clumps to put back in the original location. I ended up with about 6 divisions and 2 large clumps to put back in the hole where they started. I'll take these 2 larger clumps and replant them right away. I just take those 2 clumps, spread the roots out in the bottom of the hole, and then cover those roots up with soil. Since I did remove some soil from this hole, I'll probably end up having to add a little bit of soil later. I try to bury just the roots without covering the crown of the plant. After I have them in the ground, I give them a good soaking. That will help those roots get started again, and it'll also help the soil settle. If it settles too much, I'll add soil later. You can either plant your divisions right away in different locations around your yard, or you can plant them in containers like I plan to do here. Once they're in containers, you can share them with family and friends at your leisure, or you can even sell them at the farmer's market or something like that. I usually fill the pot about 3/4 of the way full so I can spread those roots out and lay them right on top of the soil. And then I add more soil, trying not to cover up the crown of the plant. It really doesn't take much time at all. Once I have them all in containers, it's time to give them a little water, just like I did with the ones that we planted in the original location. When I water them for the first time, I give them a real good soaking. After that, I water them as needed, as you would with any potted plant. About a month later, the ones that I put in pots are starting to leaf out pretty well and are ready to share with family and friends. And 2 months after I put those 2 clumps back in their original location, they're leafing out pretty well and you wouldn't even know that we divided them. Dividing hostas in the spring is a great way to increase the number of plants you have or share some of your plants with others. And as you've seen from this video, it's not very hard to do and it doesn't really take very long. Let us know in the comments if you grow hostas where you live. And if you're just now finding this channel, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.